Yud Zayin Tevet Samech Vav, page Nunchet.
Yeah.
I'm just mentioning the date.
I am mentioning the date. That's it. Yes. I get somebody else to look. Don't have to get concerned with it. Alright, so we reached the Maskana of the Indian Leish Machashova to Pisa Bay Cloud. We saw that was referring to Machshova, was the pure Shekwech HaSoga of Bina by the Adam. And we saw that in that Gufa there were two main Oifanim. There was Indian HaSoga Sachiv and HaSoga Sachlila. And we dealt at some length with the Indian HaSoga Sachlila and the importance. Has anybody spoken to Nachshon about this?
He saw it. He saw it.
Yeah.
He came in and he looked at it.
When was this?
Probably about last week.
So we saw that the Indian of Hasoga Sachlila could bring to a very high form of Hasoga, even that he could be Masig, the Oifan and the Eichus of the Shlila and the Afloa of the Erein Seif from the elements. We saw that Sof Kosov, that was also the Oifan of Hasoga Sachlila took him into Seviv Kalam. We saw that Seviv Kalam is also only a Ha'ora from Ein Seif, and it has a certain relationship to the oil which is Nimshach Yislabshus in the Indian and Yislabish B'tehoim. We saw because it's a mokir to the oil Ha'mamalei Kalam, which the oil Mislabish is called Mamalei Kalam. The oil Ha'maila Mislabsh is called Seivei. So Sof Kosov, why is it that Alidei, the Indian of Hasoga Sachlila, is able to at least form some form of Hasoga, the Oifan, and the Eichus of that Hafloa of the Seive from the Mamalei, because they have a certain kesher and relationship one to the other, even though for sure the Seive is Ein Arech, like Abid the Mamalei. But he's not an Indian from Ein Arech, like Gamri. He's only Ein Arech in the, what you might call the Oifan of the Ha'orah. Of the Emerson Ein Arech is in the Atzmos. That's what we saw. That even Hasoga Sachlila in the highest imaginable form can't possibly form any relationship or any form of Oifan Ha'floa in the Atzmos of Ein Seif. But that's an Indian which is completely Shaleba Era Klau. It's in Shaleba Era Klau. Yiddish, as he brought it down in Sigurni's Dos, it's completely another level altogether. Therefore, the Hasoga Sachlila can't have any grasp there, because in Shlila there has to be some relationship to the Dova Hamushlau, to the Dova Hachiyuvi. In other words, the Mamali and the Sever have to have some form of connection in order that he should be Shelo, the Inif and the Sever from the Mamali. If it's completely Ein Arech, like Amri Ein Arech, then it's not shy to be Mazik any Hasoga, Afilu Hasoga Sachlila. Therefore, the immediate Atzmos Ein Seif is Leish Machshova Tvisa Bei Klal Afilu in even from Hasoga Sachlila. And therefore, we brought down that even more than that, even Rias Ein Haseichel, and we dealt at some length with the Indian of Ra'iyah the Chochmah, but that was a Madrega Moshe Rabbeinu. And nonetheless, Moshe Rabbeinu, even he said, or even he was told that you can't be Masik. My Pinimiyas, Panai Loi Yera'u, Vareisa Sachurai, but you'll be able to see my literally my Fitanias, but not the Pinimiyas, because even Ra'iyah the Chochmah, so the Chiddush in saying that even Ria the Chochmah is not able to form any form of tfisa in the Atzmas. The Chiddush in that is that B'derech Klau, if we take a Inyan Shel Re'iyah, then we see that Ria does have a certain Inyan of tfisa b'Atzmas in it. Because if you look at something, then you see the Etzem Hadar, and your Chusha Re'iyah is Tevet the Dover Kamoishahu. For example, we take hearing, Shmi'ah, then you're not Tevet the Dover Kamoishahu when you hear about it. You only hear what has been said about it. And so even though there are certain milas in Shmi'ah, the truth is, Shmi'ah's got certain milas to it, of Legami the infant Tfisa B'Etzem, it's not shaykh in Shmi'ah. So therefore, the Salva Taita was that if we're going to say that somebody's holding by Re'iyah the Chochmah, well, even though that doesn't mean Re'iyah Chushiyah, doesn't mean seeing the Pashta, but his appreciation and grasp of Inyanim in the Inyan HaSeichel is so high and so atzmi is that he relates to them Ki'ilu Roya. And in Azarim, which is a Poyo Mamish of Ki'ilu Roya, and we brought the story of the Arizal when he said that since it was a Inyan Shel Re'iyah, then it would have taken him 60 or 80 years to bring it into a Inyan Shel Dibur, which is Shayat to the Kurtis HaGluyim, Yosef Inyan Hariyah. So we see that even though we say it's not Mamish Re'iyah Chu'ushis, but it is a Inyan Shel Re'iyah. It's a Inyan of Amitius Gender HaRe'iyah in the Ein HaSeichel. Therefore, Kasal Hadaita, we might have thought that it's possible for that Re'iyah to have some form of tefisa in the Inyan Atzmiyas, with the Hasogas HaShlila can't be Teifes, because the Hasogas HaShlila is of only a Soga, and it's also only B'derech cancellation and Shlila from certain Inyanim, to which it must anyway have a basic form or proportion. And therefore, we thought that maybe the Inyan for Re'iyah is Yeshaya. Therefore, the Rebbe said that even the Inyan from Re'iyah, the Chochmah, and the Raya was from Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moshe Rabbeinu, he was Mamish Re'iyah, and the Eibusha said, O Re'isa es Achurai. The whole Inyan of Re'iyah is only Shaykh in the Inyan from Chitzenius, and Achurayim, not in the Pneumius of Elohim. So that means to say what we thought anyway from the beginning, that in certain Madregas in Elikus he had the Inyan from Re'iyah. Therefore, the Rebbe follows the Rafi said that even Re'iyah the Chochmah is not Teifes in Atzmas Beretzei. Zehu leis Machshava Tvisa Bei, the B'chinas Machshava V'Asoga the Bina, B'chinas HaYeser and Yoino, Shehu Inyan HaSogas HaShlila, V'gam B'chinas Machshava the Chochmah. So I point out that Machshava the Chochmah is called Choshav Ma. When we talk about Machshava in Chochmah, then we don't mean the Chusha Machshava of the Arogya. The Chusha Machshava is shot to Rehusha Nefesh. And here what he said, the Inyan from Choshav Ma, then we mean that Inyan from Beetle in the Nefesh, Mitad the Inyan HaChochmah, but that's all done like we saw the Inyan from Re'iyah, Shehu P'chinas HaRe'iyah. Therefore it's called Choshav Ma, because Ma is the Inyan from Beetle Be'etchem HaMarus, as is well known. But Ma is a very deep form of Beetle. And therefore that's the Inyan from Re'iyah. Eino Teifes, B'chinas HaAtzmes, Chulu. V'lo yizu bilvad she'eino nitfes b'nishamas lamata, ela gam bo'elam asher yoinim u'ba'elam asher lamayla me'atzilus eino nitfes klal. The gam b'chinas Chochmah iloa da'atzilus u'lamayla me'atzilus eino nitfas b'chinas Atzmas Erein Seir. I said to Rebbe, it's not only just mitzad. You might have thought, well, the reason why Leis Machshava Tvisa Bei is mitzad the fact that the Nisham is Ahir Lamata. And when we say Machshava, we mean Machshava by the order. And since he's Lamata and he's Mugbal in the Guf and he's Mugbal in Inyonim Shelamata, therefore he can't be Tevis Inyonim Vanatzim. But maybe in the Eilam Asad Yoinim, and particularly Eilam Atzila, or the Sini from Chochmah Iloa, this is Chochmah, how it is mitzad Elikus. It's well known, the Sfiras in Atzilus are the Inyan from Elikus, Mami. I might have thought that in those Madregas, the Inyan from Machshava, that's the Inyan from Chochmah, the highest Madrega in Machshava, maybe that can be Teves Elikus. And if not in Atzilus, then maybe in the Elam Shalamayla me Atzilus. Because the Elam Shalamayla me Atzilus, Amam is the first Gilui after the Tzimtzum. Arishain, and they're the infant Ak and Akudim. What is going on is they're still called the infant Kadmain, was Kadmain, means the Indian of primordial, as Amadrega, which has still got itself Ain for Ain Safe Mamish in the full sense. I might have thought that maybe in those elements, if not in Chochmah Eloah, the Achilas and the Chalapokas in the element, Shalamaylam Achilas, maybe they do grasp and they have some sort of Tvisa in the infant Atzmas. Therefore he says, no, even they don't have. Even in the infant Chochmah Eloah, the Achilas, Shalamaylam Achilas, ain't no Nitfas, Beginnas Atzmas. The infant, that Bechina of Atzmas ain't safe is not Nitvas, even in there. Zehu leis machshava tefisa bei klal. That leis machshava tefisa bei klal. The gam begins machshava v'chokma hakaduma. What kaduma means primordial. That's what we hinted at. The meaning from chokma fila how it is in the elam shalamayla me'atzila. Chokma de'ach is called chokma hakaduma. Eino teifes beginas atzma. It's not able to have any grasp, klal, in the Indian Atzma. So when we use here the word teifes, then we use it in the sense that the Alter Rebbe, like we brought down at Baricha in the last class, that we use it here in the way the Alter Rebbe uses it in Perek Hey. In Tanya, that the Indian Tefisa is the power of the mind and the seichel to unite and to grasp with the Dover, that it understands in a way that they become mukaf v'nikaf, and they mamish become misyachedim or mukadim. She'ein yichud klal nimtza, she'ein yichud kazeh nimtza klal b'kachmiyat. But the Alter Rebbe brings out the Lashon over there in Perek Hey. If we can't imagine or picture such a yichud, but that's a infant tefisa that it grasps. Mamish has it. The tuich, the koyach of the Indian Atzayim. I'm sorry, my brother, but you can't do that. If you want to be in a class, you have to come on time. I'm stuck in Shul Tirutzim. I feel the Tirutzim to Kedusha, I love the Malach. Allah has come over cameras, we're not Tirutzim to Kedusha. But in your particular case, I imagine the Tirutzim of Kedusha. Allah who became, it's not a Tirutz, but a gear to coming on time to a Shia. Right, so now we go further. So he says that even in so that's Indian for Tfisa. So even those Madregish or Milo Me'atzilus are also not Teifes. Kaviyachov, even Chochma Keduma, how it is in Ak, is not able mamish to be Teifes. The Indian Atzma Sein Seif, in the sense that it would be said that it has Atzma Sein Seif, but Tfisa B'Teif, the Koyach HaSoga, how it is in Chochma Keduma there, the Ak. Amanelov, and that it follows that that's the Lashon Leish Machshava Tvisa Bei Klal, any Madrega. So here the Rebbe is being Machadish a big chiddush, that not just by the Adam, and because of the limitations of an Adam. Now, I feel it by things which are Adam Ha'eliyoi. They're the Indian from Shia Adam, albeit, but they're the Indian from Adam, how it is in Eilam Mitzrayim, ain't safe, mamish, until you get to Achwa, there's mamish that is going on, but that's called the Eilam, ain't safe. Is Afu Pikain, there's not any ability there to be Teifes in the Infinite. And if I lace Machshava, Tvisa Bei, Klal. So that's it. So it follows what he said, that on alle Madregas, B'cholo Eilemes, the Eibishter remains Mudal, B'tachlis HaAvdolah, Mitzad Atzmusah. And it's only a Ha'ora, which is Nitfas, Afila in Chochmah De'ah. Yes, Mike.
So can we ever grasp Atmos?
Oh, that's what we're saying. That's what we're about to say now. But when we say that you're Teifes, and we have to say that we mean another type of Teifes, even though we use the Lashon Teifes, then we have to say that it's another oifen of Teifes. Because here, like we said, we're basing ourselves on Perek Hey. But the Alter Rebbe Madu over there, the Tfisa HaSogeh, the Tfisa HaSeichel. So in a Chanami, in Chochmah Keduma Diach, it's not like our Tfisa. how he's measured there, but the same basic principles apply. It's just that they apply, but even Muslim me has had a EU having the way we talk here. We have any knowledge in that form of Chachma. It's called Chachma. Alpi Seder HaSfiras with Seder HaElakus. Now it's Miskalim Milamayla Lamat. It's called Chachma. So the same basic principle applies. When we say now our nitva is evil, Berusa Deliva, we're going to see it's another type of nitva. It's another type of Tevet in the Eibishter, not B'derech HaSoga.
Since we said with Sagos HaShlila, we can have grasping of the Ha'ara, of that which is mislavish in the Oilamos.
No, not this thing. Slavish in Oilamos, you're supposed to have a Sagos HaChiyuv, myself. From that Hasoga, it's mislavish in Oilamos, you can take from that a Shlila. But you can only take a Shlila to something which has got a certain relationship to that. Otherwise, it's not trying to go. You're shul from this to that. If it has absolutely no relationship whatsoever, then aims a shayat the whole Indian Shlila.
But it also said that we can't have any soga in that which is Lamailame Oilamos. The Oilamos which is Lamailame Oilamos?
No. That's what we're saying. We can have a soga in Mashu Lamailame Oilamos. Mashu Lagamri Mugdal Mikolo Oilamos, that we can't have a soga. Siva Kol Almin, we pointed out in the last shoe of Arichas. That Siva Kol Almin is only a makiv, Lagabi, the actual Oilamos, but it's a makiv HaKorev. It has a certain relation. It's one of the two types of makifim. There's what's called a makif HaKorev and a makif HaRochek. Even if in Leish Makshova is in the makif HaRochek, even in that gufa, in a higher madrega, even in the makif HaRochek.
But doesn't a Ha'ara have the source?
Yeah. So the Ha'ara which comes into Mamala has a source in the Seva. Because it's Korev, Elo elements. Seva Kol Almin.
So everything has a source. Then is there no way that you can say that since you can understand this on this level, there's no way you can understand?
No, he didn't understand that either. He only understood it b'derech shlila. You can only be shelo from something which you understood b'lechatchila b'derech chiyuv. You got the idea? So once you reach the highest hasogos hashlila, you can't then be shelo from now a new shlila. You can only just go higher in the shlila gufa from where you started. You got the idea? All right. So now we go to the new concept. Aval nitras ihu b'riyusa de liba. Yeah, the Zohar Kodesh says, but he is nitras in the riyusa de liba. The b'chinas hu madrega zu, the machshava eina teifes bo, hari hu nitras b'riyusa de liba. Well, that madrega, the machshava is not able to be teifes, meaning even the kochma chiduma di'ah, Hari who nitras berusa de liba, that is grasped al yidei berusa de liba. So we need to understand what does it mean, the rotzen of the lay. What does it mean? Was it a pshat for them? V'charik la'ovin mahu mailas berusa de liba sheteifes bechinas atzmas ein sei porach. What is the mailas so much in this ahava? Tisok. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that Rusa de Liba is an ahava. It's a how do you call it, a feeling and a midah sheba adam legabi elakus. Albeit it's a high madrega in ahava. It's called rotzen, Rusa de Liba. Of all the midas, their pneumius is anyway rotzen. So we have to say that this is a midah where the pneumius of a golui, the pneumius v'atzmius of the Indian or the Midas is there b'teikif in this ahava. So why should that be able to be teifus per atzma say Baruch Hu at the highest Indian of machshava keduma diach is not able to be teifus. So in order to understand that, says that we have to begin the cloud to understand the nekudas of ahava al yidei of Vedas Adam, and then we'll be able to understand this more pneumius v'atzmius form of our which is called Riyusa de Liba. So he says, Achainianu, the Hini Yadua, the Beklala Sinin Ha'ahavo. You see, we start immediately off with the Hini of Ahavo. Yesh Beis Madrega, Bepchinas Ahava Pnimiyas, Ahava Chitainiyas. There's an Ahava which comes mitzad פנימיוס האלוקוס, or מצד פנימיוס האדם, ואהבה חיצוניות. And there's ahava which is v'ikar, even though it may grasp certain high inyonim and certain high madrigas in Elikus, but sof it's chitzonius. So we have to assume that that means gam legabi Elikus, v'gam legabi the Adam. And as a mavur in Tanya, Perek Mem Gimel, Mem Dalet, but the Alter Rebbe, the Masber over there, the different levels in what he calls over the ahava chitzonius and ahava selam and ahava rabo v'chulu. But his mother over there at different levels of the klolis I have there is in Ava Chitzonius and Ava Panimius or Ava Achmius. So we'll see that he reaches over there in Perek Mem Dalet, the ultimate conclusion when I get to Ava Achmius or Ava Panimius, and we'll see it's got a certain connection, a certain link with what we're going to learn here in the Hampshire. So he said Ava Chitzonius. What is the meaning of Ava Chitzonius? Hu ha'ava shenilchachah min hadas v'asoger. V'hainu al yidei hasoger v'izboinenes be'elakus shemizeh nildo ha'ava. V'yesh b'zeh kama oifane ha'izbonenes. So we see that we put down our yesod, our fundament, and we say that the inyan of Ava, which is called Chitzonius, is because it comes from das vasoger. Now when he says here das, I mean klolius, he means the concept of knowledge, the ability of the Adam to appreciate. That's what we mean by das. But that there's also a certain remez here to the koyach hadas, the Indian hadas amavur in Tanya Perek Gimel, that you can't really come to any real midah be'adam el alidei the inyan das, like he's masber over there at the end of Perek Gimel. In Tanya, they said if you don't have the hamoka of das, then you have dimyanus shov. You might have avat elikus, but it's really a dimyan. How do you call it? It's like a mirror. How do you call it? An imagined thing. It's not really emistic. But ain't no chanami we can say that. However, the ikar is that he means to say what the mensch himself can be masik. Hasoger, b'chol mokim b'chsidus, means the power of grasp on the part of the Adam. So it's moving that anything which a mensch can understand, sof kosof really can't be a mitius inyan elikus. We just learned. And the mitius inyan elikus is b'chlal not musik etchel Adam. If ever we're going to say that he has a soger, what that brings to a inyan das, what that brings to a ava, then it must be in some way both mitzad the Eibishter and mitzad him a inyan chitzonius. So he said, Alidei hasoger is boinenes be'elakus. So the Rebbe points out it's not just a soger. A lot of people can be masik in yon. In other words, to a certain extent, to be masik hasoger is not a trick. I mean, it is because you've got to learn, you've got to understand, you've got to appreciate, you've got to use your mind. But that's even from hasoger. But the ikar is his boinenes. You've got to reflect and use the power of hasoger into yourself, to make yourself live and be marich in the inyan of the hasoger in your mind and in your nefesh, in a way that it will be poel, a pa'ula in the nefesh order. And that's the famous inyan of the Chabadski approach. Unless you have his boniness, then you can't really have any emes midah. You can have knowledge and understanding, but you can't really have an emes midah. Therefore he says, hasoger is boniness, shemizeh noildo ho'ahavo. From that comes out, by way of birth, the inyan of Ava. So why does it say noildo? I mean, noildo means it's born. And the truth is that the midas are anyway there in the nefesh. All these boninus does is megala the midas which are below. We all have midas in benafsheinu, mitzad the inyan, like he says in Perek Gimel. Mitzad the esses spiros alienis, we've got esses kwechas ba'odom. So the inyan for noildo here doesn't mean so much the inyan that there's never any ava unless he were to be misboina. But that happens to be true. but he does still have a certain hidden Ava benefit. What we use the in for Noilda, that Noilda is the pshat also that there's already a certain inyan in the womb. There's already what's called the embryo. I mean, in other words, that some Matthias is already there in the womb. But what happens with the inyan for Noilda later is that it comes out by Bekolui. If there was the Pu'ula of later, then it would just remain Behelim. Now that's what he means, inyan for Noilda. That your isbonenus causes something that's there, but it's behelim, and it would always be behelim. We'd never really have any toilas from it, but even the isbonenus causes it to come out. And so in that respect, we call it leido. In other words, we're talking about the inyan of a blood which comes out begilui through the inyan of the pulas hoiloda. In the same way here, through the inyan for the isbonenus, there's noilda the ar. Yesh bo zeh kama ifani is bainan. So we just said that without his bainanus nothing works. So the Rebbe said the different manners and different ways that you can be misbainan. Im shemisbainan, im means if we'll say, in other words, one possibility we take, shemisbainan b'chinas gedulas havayah. That he's misbainan in the greatness of the Eibishter. So he said, if you're misbainan in the greatness of the Eibishter, then he said, the Hainu b'chinas is pashtus gedulas ebo oilamaz. He said, what are you doing? You're looking at all the worlds, and you're saying, Kival, what unbelievable greatness is in this whole inyan of the worlds and the creation that the Eibishter brought them all about, and he keeps them all. And he called his Machaya, Mahava, all these oilamaz. That is unbelievable godless. So we see that causes a bittul and an arousal in the bench that he wants to become korev with. That's the inifanav. He has a chukar to become korev to the Eibishter, who's the source of all these unbelievable nivroim. Patches the Rebbe, that's a inifanish pashtas bilvat. It's only a derivation or a expansion. The derech ha'ora, his pashtus always means a ha'ora of the Eibishter's emes gedula. In other words, that he's emes gedula, like we say, in Ashrei v'lik gedula, say ein chayker. You'll never be able to have any idea on his emes gedula. Where can you have an appreciation? What's his pashtus? It's only a ha'ora of his gedula. And then you misbainan eishem ahava machayu ribi oilamas v'nivroim miyoi. That he's mahava and he gives life to a multitude of ilamas and creations miyait in the most unlimited manner that we can imagine. Akamesha kasu ma rabu ma shecha Hashem kulam ma gadlu ma shecha Hashem. In other words, that's two separate psukim in Tehillim. Ma rabu ma shecha, one positive. Or ma gadlu ma shecha is another person. In other words, we see two inyanim. We see first of all that there's a ribui in the etzim number of the nivroim, what you might call the etzim fanem, as they say in English, the whole inyan of the gedula. That leads to the person to wonder and he say ma rabu ma shecha Hashem. But he said ma gadlu ma shecha means that in each individual nivra there's an unbelievable gedula. In other words, that there's this unbelievable concept of greatness in the nivroim. And therefore he says, sheyesh gedoylei nivroim, v'riboy nivroim miyoid, adein keishve shir klal. Avamil, we got gedula and riboy. So if we take the inyan for gedula, yes, mine.
Is that like quantity and quality?
Yes, it's connected with, it's got a certain connection with quantity and quality. Albeit, lav tachas adiuch, auch upon him, yeah, generally speaking, other than the good is that we see that there's this inyan from ma gadlu ma shecha, but it seems to me that if you just misbainan, I mean, I was where was this? I was making one of my strips or something. Oh, that's right. I got a Talmud in Montreal. that he bought himself he bought this unbelievable big microscope. He's got out in his little backyard. He's got every now and then he looks up at the planets.
Telescope.
Yeah, he's got it's a telescope, but not stam. It's a very powerful. He's got a hush in these, he's a very, very learned guy. Learned in Gemara and Rosh Chazal, even in Zohar. He's a pillar. He learned to it. So he found some reference in the Zohar Kodesh, state in Pasha Mishpatim statement, Pasha Truma. The Ikid is Pasha Truma. That tells over there about looking at the heavenly bodies or something. He bought himself a. He said, I didn't have a look at it. He said, the night I was there, he said, it's too cloudy or something, you won't be able to see probably in the heaven. Anyway, he told me that there's one, when you look at the heavens and you see these stars, they look like little weeny white points, you just see them. He said that they're unbelievable sizes, he told me that something like, I don't know thousands of times the size of the earth, millions of times. I said, it's unbelievable. And you just look it up into the sky and you just see this little weeny white speck and it sort of makes a little sort of every now and then a sort of, a little sort of a cleat. If it's a clear night, this is unbelievable. It's, I don't know how many thousands of times more powerful than the sun. The sun is a star. The sun is like a star. So he said, those ones up there, a bit further, they put the sun in a small pocket. So when you start thinking like that, it's just unbelievable. Your mind just... So that's what the Rebbe means by the Gedoyloi HaNivroim. And then he says that the Yin from Ribui HaNivroim Miyoid Adain Kates Veshir Cloud. Without any end or limit at all. Now this leads to a famous shayla which occurs in certain Drushei Chassidus, that it's much more, almost like two different opinions in the Rebbeim. Sometimes it would appear that on certain Lashainais that the Rebbeim say that the holy Nivroim Gashmiyim a tremendous ribui adein this. Over there must be some end to it. But Ilu in certain other Makaimis, the lesson occurs adein cage for sheer cloud. Now that's also what occurs here. It's very interesting. So that would tend to indicate that there's absolutely no limit, even to the etzem ribui of the Nivroim. Now that's a big chiddush. If I say that there's no end to the ribui hanivroim, then that means that the whole cosmos is mamish, how do you call it? Bilti gvul. It's ain't safe. There would never be an end to it. Ain't case for sure. A cloud. So that runs into a Rambam, the famous Rambam in the Shemona Prakim. But the Rambam says that every dover which is mugbal, biatzmei, mukrak sheyeloi, safe or gvul. So the oyer ain't safe, which is nimshach, to actually be mislavish in the Nivroim. It's a dover sheyesh loi gvul mesuyam. So they gone through the koyach hagvul, through the tzimtzum v'chulei. And now how can they have any of an ain't safe? Not going to be ad ain't shir, ad ain't kate. So the answer is it isn't shikashi here. Because what the Rambam means is a thing that's mugbal, must have it so. He means the etzem nekudas adova exes are mugbal. It's something which is mugbal, can't be ad ain't safer. Tachlis. But the koyach hagvul of the Eivishter, that's just like he is. He's ain't safe. Remember, his koyach hagvul is also ain't safe. He can produce you gvul mitzad etzem atzmosi, which is legal. He can produce gvul in an able legal. And I never love his ekutais. The ribui ha'oilam is gashmiyim. Mamish the cosmos and the galaxy, they do it. It's all ain't safe. What he said. It's a pretty place. I was sitting a couple of years ago, or a few years ago. I was in England. I was sitting. I couldn't understand why I went to the thing, but I went to it because my Talmud, he's a shlich out there, and he made a sort of an evening there for children, to give them prizes and for their good, efforts in their camps and all this sort of stuff. So he said, well, would you please come, if you'll be there, and now people see that my Rav came and this and that. Okay, so I went, and at the beginning I couldn't figure what I was doing there. So, look at all these things, just sort of smiling at people. And so, all of a sudden there happened to be a guy sitting alongside me. We got into a conversation. And he's a sort of a makura to Yiddishkeit, not Mama's. He's a sort of a Balchua. And he was telling me this, all of a sudden we got into this whole business. And he told me that the whole Gufa, this thing that we're just mentioning now, that was a big question a few years ago, that there were certain authorities in astronomy, they claimed that they'd found the end of the cosmos. That they'd found that the limit, but beyond that, it must be void. There must be no other. In other words, that they'd got these unbelievable photographs and telescopes, and the placement was that they went to a certain point, and they timed it that Mialo be able to say, after so many thousands and thousands of galaxies and hundreds of thousands of light years, trillions of light years, it was, that they've come to the end. I say, I'm taking time, it was all in the newspapers, that they've come to the point of the ultimate circumference of the cosmos and the do's and the ends. So they got that far, and they got some other tremendous telescope for some sort of photograph. P. Kammer Gordon was there, and he said they found that where they thought the whole thing ended, all of a sudden they saw it start off again. So you said the peak in them point was they'll get tired. All of a sudden they saw some other whole galaxy starting off all over again. So he said that now the scientists and some of the big tournaments and all these are tiny, the cosmos doesn't have any end, ain't say. So I just sort of nodded at him and said, naked, Chiddush. I sort of said to him, what sort of Chiddush is that? He said, what? He said, what do you know about these things? I said, I don't really know a great deal, but I know it's written in Siddur that in Yevroim, Ad Ein Ketzveh, Veshia. And I was masking for 2 days in Siddur, but the day I am Kubelas, the Rov HaDrushim is that Ein Lachanam, it's Ad Ein Ketzveh, Ad Ein Ketzveh Shir, I feel in the Varim HaGashmiyim. He said, oh, yours? He said, where's this written? Where did you see this? I told him, we became very good buddies, we were having this great talk, the rest of the evening. And he found out on Shabbos where I was by a Talmud of mine over there, for Shabbos lunch, and he came round to the house, knocked his way in and got in, he sat down at the table, he wanted to talk to us before we went for a whole walk, because he had to go somewhere in the dirt. And he had to go to some other beginning of some other suburb. A mile away, a mile and a half away. I walked with him. On Shabbos afternoon, we had this whole ganzen arichas. He's cooking himself and showing him the cosmos and to us in the end, and the greatness of the Eivishter and the whole big it made a big effect on him. He was tremendously taken by this whole idea. And he was saying, it comes out that everything's without end. Police off, that everything's. He was all tremendously impressed with this bleak wall, There's no end to it. I said, in the Dvarim HaGashmiyim, there's no end. Just imagine, in the Ruchnius and in the spiritual sphere, and just imagine Hashem himself, just trying to, have some, impeccable picture in your mind. So he was, he was tremendously taken by the whole thing. So that's an interesting reference here. The Rebbe says that Ad Ein Ketzveh Shir Klau. That's mashma that we're talking about even because
what's the two pshat?
So
before there's two pshats and
it's another pshat which seems to say that the Olam Eskashmiyim do have a sort of a group because they come with that group. They have a group. Certain Drushim, it's mashma say. Although it's not a stira. What we mean is that mitzad the Olam will keep bohem, that they must have a group. The Koach Ein Sefer Shofeya Behem gives them an infinite group. So that can be also in two ifan. Either that can be mitzad the Mamale or mitzad the Sefer. Because it's more in certain Drushim that the Sefer, mitzad the beetle of all the Neroim to the Sefer, that's Kiru Poel Behem anyway in infinite Sefer. So I mean, one way or another, the final maskana is this one.
How does the Gedula Nevoim also have Ein Kates?
Yeah?
How does the greatness of the actual Nevoim also infinite? How are they like they're
How are they infinite? No, they're infinite mitzad their time. They're there forever till the Eibishter will stop them. But their godless is not infinite. What we're saying is it's just a tremendous godless. It has a tremendous effect on them is Beinah. When we say the infinite are they in case for sure, we mean in the Ribui. שבזה נראה וניקה גדולת הוויה. That we see the unbelievable greatness of the Eibishter. וכמיימה והגדולה זו מייסה ברשת. So Gemara Masechta Brachas, but the Gemara brings the pasuk over there in Nehemiah. L'cho Hashem הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח והעיד, כי קראו שמיים וארץ. But the Gemara teaches L'cho Hashem הגדולה זו מייסה ברשת. That the word gedula indicates the idiom from meiser bereshit. Uksiv Godel Havaya Umahulu Be'id Be'ir Elokeinu. But this is in Tehillim in Kapitel Mem Ches. But you say this, I think, on Yom Sheni, Yom Sheni B'Shabbos, in the Davni, Godel Havaya Umahulu Be'id Be'ir Elokeinu. That great is the Eibishter, and he's very praised. Prayer Mahulal Me'id Be'ir Elokeinu, in the city literally of our Eibishter. Taich the Zohar HaKodesh. Now you shouldn't think that this is a Gemara. It's not a Medrash either. It's a Zohar HaKodesh. Ein Mosai Hu Godel. If he's ekum says that when is the Eibishter Godel? Kishu Be'ir Elokeinu. As they type the Zohar HaKodesh. In other words, Godel Havaya Umahulu Me'ed. Great is the Eibishter and tremendously praised and so. Without it, is he praised? Be'ir Elokeinu. Yeah, so you might have thought, where do they sing these praises? Be'ir Elokeinu. Taich the Zohar HaKodesh? No. Taich the Zohar HaKodesh, Godel Havaya Umahulu Me'ed. When is Hashem Godel? When is he Umahulu Me'ed? Kishu Be'ir Elokeinu. Then it's possible that it should be Godel Havaya Umahulu Me'ed. So what does the Zohar HaKodesh mean with that? That the God of Achmi, how he is mitzad Achmusay, that's impossible. Nobody can possibly ever praise him mitzad that. Where is it possible to praise him, that he should be Godel and he should Mahulo? That's Dafki when he's Be'ir Elokeinu. And what is Ir Elokeinu?
That's my question.
Yeah, Ir Elokeinu is the union of, in Pasha, it means Jerusalem. But what it means is Malchus the Atzilus. Yeah, Ir Elokeinu is Malchus Atzilus. Now, why is Ir Elokeinu Malchus Atzilus? Because Malchus Atzilus is called Olam HaDibur, the Olam of speech. So, in order to understand this, you've got to have a little bit of a background. It's well known in Siddur that the Sefer Yetzirah says that the oisias that go out of Malchus are called avonim, they're called stones. Now, the oisias are called avonim because the oisias are like a gilui mugbal me'id, which brings to the infant symptom in all the Nivroim. And the infant how do you call it, a even, or a stone is a dover mugbal, and how do you call it, specific me'id. And there are other inyanim, other reasons why we tie oisi as the form of avonim. However, it's not a case to get involved in the whole inyan. What is the type of oisius here? But suffice it to say that the Sefer Yetzirah says that Shata boine shnei avonim, Yata boine shnei batim. For example, if you take two oisius of Aleph Beis, then you get two houses. You get Bo and Av. You get father and Bo. Then if you take three oisius and you make them into stones, and you get three houses, or six, or chayzon was. By the time you get to something like 8, then it starts getting a huge number. It starts getting tremendously huge. And then the Zohar HaKodesh says, the Sefer Yetzirah says, O Mishom Teitzu uspoyer masha eina pe yochel lispoyer. That you should go out and try and count with the mouth. You can't possibly count. When you get to about 11, then the number of combinations is almost ein say. It's something like a clay, thousands and tens of thousands. Then the more and more you get, the more it just it builds up. So the how do you call it? The Zohar Kodesh says that each letter is like a stone that builds houses. Then when you put letters together, you get these unbelievable combinations. And that's what the Alter Rebbe brings in Shara Yichud Ve'emunah, that each Nivra has got its own combination of the Oisias. And in that Gufa, there's all sorts of different possibilities of combinations. And then you got other combinations and other combinations that this goes absolutely beli say. That's called Ir Elokeinu. That's what's written in the Zohar Kodesh, that Malchus Tatsilas mitzad the Indian from the Oisias. What the Oisias make houses, and a lot of houses make a city. But therefore, the Oisias which go out of Malchus Tatsilas are called Ir Elokeinu. So Godel Avaya Muhulo Miyaid. So says the Zohar Kodesh, Eimosai Hu Godel. When is it possible to call the Eibush to Godel? Meaning, when is it possible that we should have some idea of his Gedula? He's ever so Gedula, it's not Shai Beklal that we should have any idea. When is it that we're able to appreciate his Gedula and praise it, Mahulo Me'uid, in a way that we're not able to praise it with an end, but at least as much as we can unendlessly praise him, Kishu Be'ir Elokeinu. That's when he's in that Indian of the Oisias, what they make the Indian of Ir. But they make a huge like city about countless Oisias and countless Binyonim, and that's called Elokeinu, but that's the Shem Elokim. But that's believed the Shem Havaya. That's only mitzad the Indian from Shem Elokim Bilvad. He said, ever said the Rebbe follows Lafise, that the whole Indian from Gilu, the whole Indian from Godel Havaya, Umahul Umayid, is only Kishu Be'ir Elokeinu. Shalidei Ir Elokeinu Oilam Hadibur. What that means, Malchus Tatzilas. Oilam Hadibur, the world of speech. Amahava Oilam is, what that brings about those Oisias, as the Alter Rebbe must be in Shara Yichud, are those Oisias, they are what bring about and create the actual Oilam is Nika Gedulas Havaya. Then we're able to, it's possible to be recognized in some way, the Gedulas Havaya. Aber Kimuven. And that's only Legabi the Nivroim, what they can be Makir. And even in that Guva, they can't really be Makir the Amiti as ain't safe, but all. Ukadisha Medrash Tehillim, there's another famous raya, as it's written in Medrash Tehillim, Al Pasik, in reference to the verse in Tehillim, Hashomayim Misaprim Kvei Keo. This is in chapter 19, chapter Yutes. What we say this on Shabbos, of course, everybody is familiar. The chapter Yutes in Tehillim. It's written, Hashomayim Misaprim, that the heavens, they tell you the COVID of the Eivashter. Moshel legiba, says the Medrash, a moshel to a giba sheniknas la Medina. A giba came into a state, he came into a place. People knew that he was a Gibor. They heard that this guy was a Gibor, but they didn't know what was his Gibor. They didn't know how great was he a Gibor. How much of a Gibor was he? In other words, they wanted to know how much you have to be scared of this guy, or how much not. How much you have to be careful of him, and how much not. They didn't know what was his Gibor. They just heard that he was a Gibor. There was one clever guy there, but this bitui occurs, that occurs in quite a few medrashim. And it occurs in the famous medrash that you guys are all familiar with. The famous medrash that the Rebbe cites from Yehuda of Nissen in the famous Maimah of Tovshim Lamadal, you know, but the Moshe Lamelech Sheniknas Medina, and he had with him all the ministers. You don't know the matter, so the people were all standing around. One said, I'll take this minister. Another one said, I'll take this minister. He'll be my guest. I'll take him home. So they were talking amongst themselves. And And he said, I will take the king. I know you, Malka. Yeah, the Kulu Mischalfin, all of them are going to change. Our Malka ain't a Mischalfin, the king never, he's not going to change. He's the king and he's permanent, so I'm going to take him. I just been the master. Huh? Don't know from the famous method. And that's what's written, Chelchi Havaya Omer Nafshi, that my chelik is Taki, the Shem Havaya, the end of the Eivest. So that's a famous message, brought in Ribui Jerusalem. So that's, and the Rebbe said once on Yudah of Nissen, he said the famous Biur being in Tevet, to about 5 different madrigas, what's the pichus of the pikeach? Everybody understands that the melech is incomparably greater than everybody else. Yeah, what was the pichus of the pikeach? You guys don't know what the whole moment. What I thought you should do. I'm upon him. The same thing here, that we don't know the gevura of this guy, we don't know anything about his gevura. So he says, Pikei Echler. So once again, it's going to ask itself, but I don't know if we're going to be able to go here in these classes into what is the pichus of the Pikei. Finally, what is he so clever, how are you so Pikei Echler? So what did he say? He says, Oma, miyavna dehu misgoishish po, Atun Yadin Gvurosai. He said from the stone that he will literally be able to, that he could find an way to, he'll be able to move it or lift it up. Or the word Mishgoshesh means like to, almost like to play around with it, to see what he can do with it, like to explore it. In other words, it's from the stone that he'll be able to either move or lift up, then he'll be able to understand what sort of a giver he is. In other words, if he moves a huge stone, or lift up a huge stone, then everybody understands what's for a giver. If it's a smaller stone, then you understand that he's not such a big giver. And that's what the Pikeach said to the peoples. And when everybody said, oh, this is Givaldi, and they get the guy to tell him who was telling him from the size of the stone, then they understand what sort of a giver he is. And so it says the Midrash, but that is a pshat. Kach hashomayim mishaprim kveid keil. In the same way that the heavens tell us the greatness of the Eibishter. In other words, from the heavens, I can see what sort of stone the Eibishter is able to roll. I see these unbelievable heavens, all these unbelievable Nivroim, all the unbelievable Gedele on Nivroim, and I see the Eibishter moves that stone. He's able to push that stone around. So we get some idea of the unbelievable Gedula of the Eibishter. So said the Rebbe, bis beinen zeis bis pastes gdulosei, nas is pilus hanefesh, alelakus, nas is pridus rotzoi. So he said, when a mention is beinen in these inyanim, and he is beinen in the whole heavens, and the Eibishter is misgoishish by heavens there, as if he got it. He said that causes in the mensch a rotzoi. How do you call it?
No.
A yearning to get out, a yearning to go outwards and upwards. How do they say? Up.
No way.
Let's get out of here. Yeah, to go upwards into Elikus. But the Rebbe says, that's all bishpashtus gedula. That's all only in a ha'ora of his emes gedula. Like we said, his emes gedula we can't possibly know. We can only know a bishpashtus of his gedula. Said the Rebbe, nonetheless, even that is pashtus causes the man shainim from rotzoi. In other words, he wants to leave everything behind. He's fed up. He doesn't want any more of this limited world. He wants to go out and unite with the unbelievable greatness of Hashem and be, as it were, cast himself on the unbelievable greatness of the Eibishter and literally leave behind all this small fry down here in everyday life. But that's the Indian of Rotzoi. Well, it's written by the Malachim over there in the famous vision of Yecheskel over Chayos Rotzoi Vashoiv. They're going out, pushing their heads above the Rukiah, says Rashi. And then when they see the greatness of the Eibishter, at that level they pop back down again. They have this Indian from Rotzoi. And that's a good thing. You shouldn't play it down. You shouldn't say, this is only his pastures. This is not For me, I'm looking for bigger things. But the Indian from Rotsoi is a beginning. It's like, without Rotsoi, you can't really get anywhere. In other words, if you don't have a desire to go out and to get higher and to leave things behind, then you'll always be with the behind. You'll always be a little bit sort of stuck with those things that you should really leave behind. You'll always be a little bit, you always have, you'll always be not just feet on the ground, but you'll be to a certain extent caught on the ground. And therefore it has to be decision from Rotza. So emes, Rotza is nicht die emes of Pnimiyah, because it's only nilkach from our level of Elikus, which is anyway Chitonius Elikus. Even though it's Adein Kate Shir Mami, but that's only Chitonius Elikus. But, says the Rebbe, this is a beginning and that's a basic Indian in Avedus Hashem, Rotza. But the Rebbe said there's higher and more delicate than that. And therefore he says, Ubafrat, Kishem is Beinen, Eik Shekol Zeh, Ubamaima Varua Piv Levad. He said, if you'll take all this unbelievable Gedula, and it's Mamish Adein Kates, Adein Tachlis, Vashir, and all of a sudden he'll be misbeinen how all of that is like, it's one Kaviyachal statement. And if we take, for example, by a mensch, one Amira, Gabi, his whole ability to speak, the whole of his life, then one little Amira is nothing like Gabi all that he can speak. So here we say that by a mensch, Lamata, Alachas Kama Vachama, Kaviyachal by the Eberstein, to one Amira, this is by absolutely, aim was a cold error, at all, cloud. Therefore, says the Rebbe, that's the next kilo prat in this whole Hisbonenus. Now I've reached Adein Kate, Adein Shir, Adein Tarus, Adein Yonim, and now I say, but all of that is only B'mayim V'Rupiv Levad. It's only with one statement and with the spirit, I call it like the breath of his mouth. Okemoi Baruch Sha'oma V'Hoyoho Oilom. The B'amira Achas Nivro Kol Hoilim Baruch Sha'omah V'Hoilim. And so when we say Oilim, we don't just mean this book. I mean, Allah Oilim is Allah Madrigas with Allah B'chinas with Allah Inyanim. It's all Amira Achas Baruch Sha'omah V'Hoilim. But in Emerson in the Zohar Kodesh, it's much of the Machshava Achas. But that wasn't Amira Achas. There's a bit of a Chiddush, it's brought down in Siddur, their Losson. In other words, that even if we'll talk how it gets into the union of Kaviyachal Dibur, like we saw the union from Malchus to Atzilas, Oilam Dibur, but even there, all those Ribui Oisias, and all those Ribui Inyonim that we spoke about, they're all like one Amira by the average. He produces all of them. Kilo, like as if he just let out one little Amira, Baruch Sha'oma V'Hoyoho Oilam, even though it's a Ribui Oisias, like we said, Adein Shir, Adein Tachlis. And therefore he says, as I mentioned Mizbeinen in that, and that's particularly Befrat. Oi, he said another possibility, Shemizbeinen Be'etzim Ho'inyan, Shebechol Dova Yesh Koyach Eloki Amahava Eisai, Amachaya Eisai. So the Rebbe said, there's another way. That's looking, you take everything Beklolos, and you go up into the Klolos Oilam, he said, the Klolos of the whole cosmos, the Klolos of all the Ribli Nivroim. In other words, you're thinking, to use the expression in English, you're thinking big, you're thinking in all the elements and all the cosmos and all the Inyanim. So the Rebbe said, I got another suggestion for you. Maybe instead of trying to think in such an all-embracing way, then he say, take any given nivra, any given creature that you like, in the whole makeup of all the elements. So he said, take one of them on his own. So he said, Shebechol Dova Yesh Koyach Eloki, that you come to the conclusion that every created creature must have in it a Koyach Eloki, Hamahava Oisoi or Machaya Oisoi. This is what's written at the beginning of Shara Yuchel, what the Alter Rebbe said, that since everything is Yesh Mi Ayin, that everything came about in a form of Yesh Min Ha'ayin, means that there's nothing holding the Nivra. He doesn't have any shores from whence he came. It's only the aims to keep holding him there by his speech. If there's not a speech of the Abish inside every Nivra, then he just wouldn't be there. In other words, either he's absolute Efes or he's something. And what is that something? That's the Koyach of the Abish. And I'm going to that every being you look at is only there because the Abish says that it should be there. And if it weren't for the statement of the Abish to be there, it just wouldn't be there. I remember you can take an example. You don't have to, like the Alter Rebbe brings out there in Perik Memalev, the Alter Rebbe says that Al Yecha of the Satzman in a cloud. So men come over and say, oh yes, still all these Nivroim, or this table, if it weren't for the fact that the Abish is saying every moment, it wouldn't be there. It would be just iron web. It just wouldn't be a void. You know? But he forgets about himself. He keeps, oh yeah, the whole world, yeah. So then with Al Yechi on him, in a cloud, he has to realize he's also the same, that if not the aims to want him to be there every second, and the aims to renews him every second, yes, I want you to be this wouldn't be here. They're like he brings out there, Koyidim Sheish, you should make grace. It was just like the whole breed, this wouldn't begin. That's another way of looking at it. In other words, you could be big time, you could be pointing the whole, the whole cosmos, and take into account the whole cosmos. Or he said, just take any individual, including yourself, and he said, you understand that if it's not the koyach elakia mahavias or machaya, he say, ein dova, or he said, es hatzmei. Now that's a quote from the Alter Rebbe in Tanya Perikot. That's what the Alter Rebbe says there. Nothing can make itself. There must be some koyach making it. Ve'inu chai mi, atzmei can't possibly live from itself. I mean, everything it must have a divine, specific koyach which is holding it every regard. And when he thinks in that, it becomes tremendously precious to him. The highest Eloki, Yoka means becomes tremendously dear and precious to him. And when he cocks himself out in that koyach, it's holding the whole mirror together, and he forgets all the rest of it. And my maybe like the Alter Rebbe says, if we would see that koyach Eloki, we would forget the ganze nivra. That steht dort in Perek Gimel, in Shara Yichud. Mele said the Rebbe does Misera, he becomes awakened. Sheko Chefte Vereteinoi, that his whole will and his whole desire is only in Elokus. Amazing, this. Ganze Fakot, der will noch Elokus. Like the Alter Rebbe said. That's what he brings in the road, brings out there in the Maimon, in that famous Maimon that I mentioned. Cut in the famous statement of the Alter Rebbe. He said, "Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, ich will nicht dein Elam Habo, ich will man nicht as dir ab, as dich allein." So the Rebbe said, that's also only the Alter Rebbe also meant higher than that. He gave a few half of them, the famous Maimon. Anyway, whatever. So the Rebbe said, not whatever, but anyway, whatever. He said, "Nasi yochet le'aher v'achayis elokis." He said, "V'chol zeh hu mi'is bonus b'ha'ora elokis." It told us the ha'ora ha'mislavish b'hilam ha'sof it's all just elokus. It's mislavish in everyone. He said he came to the conclusion that's also the Gavi there is the whole thing. That he couldn't. There's an old saying in Yiddish, "Lipsiko and Shlon, it doesn't even begin." The Gavi there said so, but it's nothing even to talk about. He said then he goes higher and higher. So this Indian from Rusa de Liba is going to be something very profound. And we haven't got anywhere near it yet. Before we get to Rusa de Liba, David should already finish off the task for us. He should bring his scholars and Melech Moshiach, because then everybody has Rusa de Liba. We're going to sit and learn about Rusa de Liba without having to worry about it. And we'll all have it, Be'ez Hashem. Take it from the other.
Amen.
Good. Okay, guys.